Management for optimal gopher tortoise habitat. Cameron Coley and Bo Owen.
Why should we preserve the gopher tortoise and its habitat? There are three main reasons. First, seed dispersal of grasses. Second, the return of nutrients to the soil surface. When a gopher tortoise burrows its holes, it brings the leached nutrients from down in the soil back to the soil surface. And third, it provides shelter for other species. The gopher tortoise hole provides a shelter for over 360 different species of animals, vertebrates and invertebrates alike. A few examples are the eastern indigo snake, eastern diamondback rattlesnake, foxes, burrowing owls, and gopher frogs.
The optimal habitat for the gopher tortoise would be a typical longleaf pine stand. The gopher tortoise once had over 92 million acres of longleaf pine habitat in the southeastern United States. Now, there's less than 3.4 million acres left. The United States Fish and Wildlife Service listed them as threatened in their western range, which is west of the Tombigbee River, southwest Alabama, Mississippi, and Louisiana. Under the Endangered Species Act, they listed them as a species of concern in Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, and southeast Alabama.
What is an ideal habitat for a gopher tortoise? An ideal habitat is a well-drained sandy soil with abundant herbaceous food supply in the understory, and also open canopy for sunlight to reach the nesting sites. The gopher tortoise eggs have to be at a certain temperature to hatch.
So what would the life cycle of a gopher tortoise be? Well, they can live up to 60 to 100 years. They burrow holes on an average of about 15 feet. They reach sexual maturity at different ages depending on where they are located in their range. For instance, in Georgia, they reach sexual maturity at 19 to 21 years of age, and in Florida, it's 14 to 15 years of age. They mate in the spring, and females lay an average of 7 eggs once a year. They lay them close to the burrow surface between April and July. The hatching period is contingent on their geographical range. In South Carolina, they hatch in about 110 days. In Georgia, it's 102, and in Florida, it ranges from 80 to 90 days.
What does the gopher tortoise eat? The gopher tortoise can eat 100 different species of herbaceous plants. Herbaceous plants include legumes, grasses, and fruits. A few examples would be a blackberry, blueberry, milk pea, rattlebox, greenbrier, crabgrass, and witchgrass.
The population of gopher tortoise has declined by 80% over the last century. There are three reasons why. First is destruction of habitat, the second is degrading of habitat, and the third is predation, both human and animals.
First, the destruction of their habitat. As you can see in the picture on the right, that's a cotton field that used to be prime gopher tortoise habitat. So a few of the reasons are land cleared for agriculture, land cleared for livestock, mining, and urbanization.
The second reason is degrading of habitat. The main reason is because of the exclusion of fire in their habitat. This causes their herbaceous food source to become shaded out and die off. And also it causes the canopy to close up, which also aids in the dying off of their herbaceous food source.
Last is predation. First, the humans. The gopher tortoise was a main food source during the 20s during the Depression. Also, people took them for pets and tortoise races. In the late 70s, it was not rare for at least 100 tortoises to be caught in Georgia and moved to Florida for a single race. The reasons why this is bad was because of the gene pool mixing, the disease transmission, and the ethics of the displacement. Second is the animals. As you can see on the right, there's a coon eating gopher tortoise eggs. Coons will eat the eggs as well as skunks, and also will eat small gopher tortoises when they start to emerge from the holes.
So what would we do if the landowner came up to us and asked us to help increase the population of gopher tortoises in his already established pine stand? Well, we would want longleaf pine stand, but if his stand was slash or say loblolly, we would have to decrease the fire regime to accommodate for the less fire tolerant species. We'd like to keep the hardwood population in check so it wouldn't shade out the tortoise's food source, and we'd also like to institute a trapping program in order to keep the predation numbers down.
Our management plan for establishing a new stand is kind of the same as an old stand, but we can make it exactly how we want it. So first, we would definitely use longleaf. We would plant them a little wider than normal spacing to prevent canopy closure. If we do have canopy closure, which we will have one thinning to get down to our desired basal area. We also want to use the minimal that we can of heavy machinery for site prep. The site prep can kill the gopher tortoises by running over them for one, and two, if they're down in their holes, it can trap them inside where they can't dig out. We'd also want to burn every 1 or 2 years depending on the understory growth. We want to keep herbaceous material for them to eat, as well as keep out all the woody stems. We'd also create openings such as food plots or fire breaks for the tortoises. And last, we would control the predators, so we'd have a trapping or hunting program for that.
Consequences of our management plan: for an established stand, there'd be a less species variation, the possible killing of less fire tolerant species with our fire regime, and be susceptible to wind damage.
Consequences of establishing a new stand are, with less site prep, we'd have to use more fire to reach our desired understory. We don't want a thick litter layer, therefore we only use one thinning to reach that. The return on the investment for the landowner would be lower if he was trying to do something other than just manage for gopher tortoises. For example, he wanted to manage for timber as well. His return would be lower because of our wide spacing and single thinning. There would also be less species variation because of the fire, and it would be susceptible to wind damage because of how open the understory and overstory is.
Okay, pictured here would be something that we probably see with an already established pine plantation. If the landowner came up to and asked us for our help, we'd probably, the picture on the bottom, that stand looks a little too close together, so we'd probably run a thin in there, and then from there we'd run fire in there until we could get it open enough and have the right herbaceous material in order to sustain a tortoise population.
If we're establishing a new stand, this is an idea of what our stand would look like when we planted, as far as our spacing, to keep it wide enough to prevent canopy closure and always have it open so that herbaceous material can grow up under it. This is a picture of what we want our final stand to look like. On the top left, there's plenty of herbaceous material. It's wide enough stand so that plenty of sunlight can reach the ground. And on the right is just a picture of a fire break that we would make, and also how many times we would run fire through there to keep our stand looking like we wanted it.
Okay, pictured here is pretty much what we would want altogether from our management plan. This is what we want our results to look like. We'd like a herbaceous understory, a perfect nesting site for a gopher tortoise, open canopy, fire tolerance pine species. Overall, the picture looks exactly like we want it to. And just to sum it all up, whether we're working on an already established stand or starting a new one, we're shooting for the same goal, which is an open canopy, a pine-dominant stand with plentiful amounts of herbaceous plants and grasses in the understory, all the while we use fire to keep down the woody stem population. And also, we use a minimal amount of heavy machinery during thinning and site prep.
Our credits: the video, Cameron Coley; the PowerPoint, Cameron Coley and Bo Owen; and the research, Cameron Coley and Bo Owen.
And this is our works cited page.